Though ClickHouse is not primarily a time series database, it is frequently used with time series data. In this video, we're going to learn how to fill gaps in time series data using the with fill clause. So let's open ClickHouse, and I've loaded a data set of mid-journey images metadata. So let's have a look what we've got. So you can see we've got an ID, we've got a timestamp, we've got height, width, and size. So I've cut out, there is a bunch of other data as well, but I've cut that out for the purpose of this video. We're now going to set some parameters in our session. So we're going to set a start time. That's going to be on the 24th of March 2023, 002402. And then we'll do an end time, which is 002403. So we're just getting 1 second's worth of data for the purpose of this demo. And then we're going to write a query that's going to round down the times that we've got where people have created images down to the nearest 100 milliseconds. And we're going to count how many times images were created in that bucket of time. And then we'll filter it so that it only includes timestamps from our start parameter to our end parameter. And let's see what that comes up with. So you see we get back this result. You can see the first entry is at 300 milliseconds into that second. We've got a count of 3, then at 600 milliseconds we've got a 1, at 700 we've got a 1, and then 800 we've got a 2. Now let's imagine that we actually want to get entries for each of the milliseconds buckets. So starting from 0, 2, 0, 0, 2, 100, 0, 2, 200, and so on. And that's where the with fill can help us. So we can use it, so we can adjust our query. So we'll say with fill, and then we specify a step. So that's how many steps do you want to fill in? And we're going to say, well, it's 100 millisecond steps. So let's add that in as well. And then if we run the query, you can see it's now added in entries for 400 and 500. Now we are still missing everything above 300 and everything below 800. And so let's see if we can fix that. So to fix the starting point, the actual starting point will be where your first values occur. So we didn't have any values right at the start. So we're going to use a from to fix that. So we can say, well, we want our fill to start from, and we'll say the start timestamp. And if we run that query, you can see it's now filled in 02000 and 100 and 200. But we're still missing the end, right? We're missing 900 and then the 0300. And that's where the 2 comes in. So the 2 is not inclusive. So what we're going to do is we're not going to go just to the end. We're going to go to the end and then we're going to add on another 100 milliseconds as well. And if we do that, you can see now at the end, we've got our 900 and then we've got our 0300. And those are both 0 entries. Now, let's imagine that what we were doing with this is actually we want to get a cumulative count of how many images were being created in this sample example over that 1 second period. So we could use a sum count over a window period, and we'll order it by the bucket, and then we'll get our cumulative count. And you can see it comes back. So the first 3 entries are zeros, then we've got our 3, but then it goes back down to 0 again because there was no entry in there. And then we go 4, 5, 7, and then we go back down to 0 again. But if it's a cumulative count, those ones should basically just take the previous value. So we should be seeing 3, 3, 3, 4, 5, 7, 7, 7, right? That's ideally where we'd like to be. And so we can achieve that as well. So we can use the interpolate clause on the end, and we can say, I just want you to use cumulative. So you basically use the previous value that you've seen. You'll see other examples where you might use a different value. So maybe we hard code it to a value, or we could say, we'll take the previous value and then add a value or add a number. So add 1, for example, but here we're just going to keep it to the previous value. And if we run that, you can see it's now got, we go 0, 0, 0, 0, 3, 3, 3, 4, 5, 7, 7, 7. So that's great. That's now working perfectly. Now what we might want to do next is add in a bar chart. So we can do that using the bar function. So we'll say we want to create a bar chart on the cumulative column. We'll start at 0, we'll go up to 10, and then our size of each section of the bar chart is going to be 10 as well. And you can see that runs. And again, but now we can see there are gaps again, right? So we've gone empty, empty, empty. So that's kind of expected. Then we've got the 3, but then the next 3s are blank. And then if you look down, the 7s at the end are blank as well. And it's the same problem, and it has the same fix, is that we can then add bar chart into our interpolate. So you can use multiple columns inside that interpolate. And if we run that query, you can see now the bar chart is filled in for every entry. There's also a blog post about time series data that I'll link down below in the description. And if you liked this, you might also like this video here, where we learn how to down sample time series data in ClickHouse.